We haven't really touched on Applejack here on Behind the Bar yet, and it certainly deserves its own deep dive. Let us know in the comments if you agree. But easily the most famous cocktail using this all-American spirit is the Jack Rose. An origin story involving a New York gangster and an appearance in a Hemingway novel helps to lend some pretty serious street cred to this unassuming pink drink, even if the gangster story is probably untrue. The first written mention of the Jack Rose is in 1905, where it's attributed to a bartender named Frank May, whose nickname was apparently Jack Rose for reasons which have never really been explained. Others tend to think that it was just named after the Jack Rose flower, or in a very literal explanation that the Jack comes from the Applejack base spirit and the rose from the rosy tint of the drink. Anyway, the drink was actually already quite popular before the gambler Bald Jack Rose gained notoriety in a 1912 case concerning the murder of a bookkeeper. Bald Jack was the star witness who sent down a lieutenant in the NYPD for the crime. But not only was it not named for him, he actually adversely affected the sales of both the Jack Rose cocktail and the flower for a while afterwards, at least according to a 1913 article in an Arizona newspaper. Just a quick thank you to our fabulous Patreon supporters. Shout out to you. Marianne, Greg, Colin, Cara, Jean-Michel, Eduardo, Notfer, Patrick, Luke, and Justin. If you'd like to join these awesome people and help us to continue making content, then you can sign up by searching With Cara Divine on Patreon or just click through the link below. This is essentially a really simple sour recipe, but the apple brandy and the grenadine give it a really lovely warmth and fruitiness. If you use good grenadine, which you really should, because otherwise it's just going to taste sort of indistinctly pink, then it will have a little tartness itself. So I tend to go equal parts of that and the lime juice to stop it being too sour. There are some recipes which call for lemon and some which split the citrus between both, and then some which call for raspberry syrup instead of the grenadine, which I think stems from that kind of dark age of cocktails where fluorescent pink syrups were used pretty interchangeably. My personal preference is to pair pomegranate with lime and then switch to lemon if you are using raspberry, because I just think that those flavors are a bit more harmonious. But honestly, it's a pretty delicious drink either way, as long as there's plenty of Applejack in there. This drink is generally served naked, i.e. with no garnish, and I think the lovely blush colour is garnish enough, especially if you have some pretty glassware like mine, but of course a little lemon twist or apple fan won't go amiss. Applejack and apple brandy are often used interchangeably. Basically, Applejack is actually named for the process of jacking, where hard cider used to be frozen to make a stronger spirit. This, somewhat not unsurprisingly, is no longer legal. But Applejack is a blend of apple brandy and neutral grain spirit, not 100% brandy, and that gives it a kind of whiskey-ish kick, which works really well here. Layers is the only brand which has been around for a while, but there are some good craft versions these days, or of course you can substitute any apple brandy or Calvados. This one that I'm using is layered straight Applejack, so it is actually 100% apple brandy and it's a little bit higher in proof, so it just really helps that kind of spiciness in the cocktail. I'll drop a recipe for a homemade grenadine below, but if you are going to use a store-bought one, then definitely use a good quality one, because you want a really properly sort of juicy and actually pomegranate flavour with that little bit of tartness as well. So no garnish to prepare on this one, but we are going to squeeze some lime juice first. 25 mils, which is about one kind of small-ish lime. 25 mils doesn't really translate to the imperial measurement system that well, so usually just kind of say 3/4 of an ounce. But basically, as long as it's kind of the same amount as the grenadine, then it should work out. So we go 25 mils of lime juice and the same amount of your grenadine. 60 mils of your layered Applejack. Might be a fresher cocktail, but you know, it's still Christmas. So nice, generous measures here. Then we're gonna fill our shaker tin full of ice, pop your tins together and shake as hard as you can. Just use your Hawthorne strainer to hold the ice back and then pour through the fine strainer, although that's pretty optional for this one. Nice bright one. So there you have it. a Jack Rose. So now you know. See what this one's all about. It's fresh, it's fruity, it's fun. That Applejack really comes through really well, and it does have like a bit of a touch of kind of spice to it, which obviously works really nicely with the other fruitier flavors. For a 3-ingredient cocktail, it's definitely, you know, quite complex. Definitely like, yeah, pretty juicy and easygoing in a way that it would be easy to forget that there is a full 2 shots of Applejack in there. So just letting that be a warning to you. But yeah, I do like those, as I said, those kind of like warming, but obviously not actually warm flavors, especially on a hot Christmas day in Australia.